you've obviously read the charter. I take it you're not happy with town meeting, but the charter itself, you think it's outdated?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Well, in asking about what should be changed in the charter, you brought up some examples of frustration at town meeting, which I think has everyone has noted in the past. I think one thing to keep in mind too with government, that from a perspective that I've seen, whether it's town meeting or boards or committees or elected positions, is time. And it seems as though everyone's in a hurry today, and everyone tends to want everything done for them as opposed to be involved in the process to do it. Now, that being said, we have a lot of people that come forward like yourself and like us that really volunteer a lot of time and hours to do these things. But in the grand scheme, when you're looking at town meeting, you're lucky to catch the people that are available that night to come to town meeting, and there might be many people that can't make it for whatever reason, or they choose not to. So I think that is something that has to play into the grand scheme of how the leadership in the community is organized in relevance to today, and something that can be withstanding of time. And I know that probably when they initiated town meeting 200 years ago, they thought that was something that would last forever. And you know what? It's lasted 200 years, and I'm not saying it's the end of it, but there comes a point where if you do reinvent something, you have to think about not just today, but will this last for a while, and how do you craft it so that it really works. So I mean, one thing we know that changed was Wareham had full-time selectmen at one time, and then that went away, and went from 3 to 5 part-time. So and a lot of communities did that, and then they hired a full-time administrator. So all those things changed, but they also did last for a long time. So I hope that this committee can devote the time that's necessary, and I know it's going to take a lot of time and thought and effort, but it's worth it because it's really something that we need. And ultimately the committee will have the great challenge of representing the many thousands of people in the community and trying to make all those collective frustrations a reality. So it's a tough task.
I agree. This committee, I think, is going to have to set up something in the charter or the new charter that it's going to last well into the future, and be able to address the problems that we have well into the future.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
In.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vasevich.
And lastly, we have Mary Ann Silva. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Good evening, Mary Ann Silva, Town Clerk.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Selectman Ekstrom?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Selectman Donahue?
Well, I'm going to deviate from my question just to make a comment first. I'm glad that you have put your name forth, because I think it's very important that the Charter Review Committee have some people on it who are involved with the operation of the town and are very familiar with the charter. And I appreciate everybody else coming forward as well, but I just want to say especially I think we need some people who are really involved in the day-to-day governments. And I'm sure that that's what prompted you to put your name forward for this committee, but if you'd like to say what prompted you to put your name forward for this committee in your own words, I appreciate it.
Actually, when they had the committee 10 years ago almost, they had called on me to come in and they grilled me on different ideas, and they asked me to come forward. Actually, I was the one that put forth the deputy moderator. And they asked me several questions because I was in town government. However, back then, I was green. It has been 14 years as an employee of the town and almost 11 as town clerk. And I feel that I have a lot of experience now. I have several contacts. I have 350 city and town clerks that I can call on regarding charter changes or different forms of government. And that's a phone call or a computer away from getting all that information. I have a professional working relationship with the Secretary of State, the Attorney General's office. I can guide them as far as the procedure for getting the charter changes implemented and what they need to do. And for me personally, being in day-to-day government, definitely I feel that there are changes that need to be made. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Selectman Savageau.
Well, Mrs. Donahue raises really an excellent point about you personally, meaning your background and being an actual an elected official in the community with a vital role, not only in the operation of the government, but a very vital role at town meeting itself. And so you probably would have a not a different, but a unique perspective on the town meeting process, because you're on the stage and you're busy doing what you do as a clerk and so forth. So my first question is, what about town meeting process itself? Do you think I have to agree with Mr. Pasevich on a couple of points, one being that it's not just the population of the town, but it's the complexity of the issues and the problems that we face. And, from my perspective on this board, sometimes they just seem insurmountable and just beyond, they just seem that you would need a full-time committee all day long studying one issue to get the resolution. So, first question is town meeting. Are we there? Are we at the stage where it's just now, instead of accomplishing the business of the community, are we actually destroying it? And the follow-up to that is, what about the process itself, government itself, this form of government? And if we're not at that stage, based on your very unique and personal experience, what about the charter itself, specifically? So town meeting, government, charter. Is it broken, and is it solvable under the current form, or are you open to the idea of trying different ways to approach these problems?
First of all, I don't think town meeting is necessarily destroying the government. I think that it definitely is dictated by special interest, and that becomes a big problem because they're only representing a very small minority. So as far as that goes, I am definitely open to some other form of town meeting, a representative town meeting. I know in Plymouth, when I talked to Larry Pizer, they're successful there. I know Barnstable changed their form of government to a committee. I'm not sure of the name, but so I think we are due for a change. There's no doubt about it. I think we're stagnant. I think when we go to town meeting, people are just so involved in what they think is important to them that they really do not look at all the issues. And we see that when town meeting ends and we haven't completed a warrant, and that becomes a real issue. Like I said, I have the resources to look into other forms of government to bring to the committee so that they can see exactly what is out there. And definitely I do think that Wareham needs a change. I think we've grown so much that we do need a change. As far as the charter goes, I am exposed to the charter